So, following on from our previous video that discussed the basics of the select statement, and all we did there was choose specific columns or fields that we wanted to return, and also the order in which we wanted to return them in, we're going to now extend this to now filter the information. Now, we used the employees table in the previous video, but there's only about 9 records in there. I need something with a bit more meat to it. So what I'm doing is I'm using the customers table, which has 91 rows. So in here, what I want to do is talk about filtering, say, on the city. Let's say I only want to see only the customers which are in London. Well, this is done by using the where clause. Now, before I get into the details of the where clause, I just want to answer a question that some of you probably already got on the back of your minds, which is, what about it being case sensitive? Because if I start typing in London, will it matter whether I type it in a capital L or a lowercase l? Well, it all depends on what's known as the collation order. Now, because the collation order is quite a large subject, I'm going to leave it out of this video, but suffice it to say, what I'm going to do is just briefly show you what it means. Inside here you'll see that you have a collation, and I'm going to ignore the front part of it and just deal with the last sort of 2 sections, CI and AS. The CI means it's case insensitive. Now, if you're following with me at home, you may find that that says CS on yours, which means it's case sensitive. Now, if that is the case, what you must make sure is that you capitalize everything where capitals are being used. So, for example, customers here has a capital C, and I've got a capital C in here, but because it's case insensitive, if I run that pressing F5, you'll see it still works for me. So case sensitivity is a bit of a hot topic, and I'm really going to leave this for another video because we're here to look about the filter. So how do we do the where clause? Well, I would just put in where city, being the field, equals, and then in quotes, London. But as I say, collation may affect this, so make sure you put in capitals if you have this problem. If you press F5, there we go, I have now all my cities being returned as London. Now, what if I wanted to show Berlin as well? Well, what you would generally say in English terms would be, I want to see customers where city equals London and city equals Berlin, which would be technically correct apart from one problem. Let me just finish this off. Okay, so we're now saying that where city equals London and city equals Berlin. If I just press F5 or execute, you'll see I get no rows returned. Now, there's a reason for that. Although that's how we would say it in English, that is not strictly the truth, because we're talking about inspecting each row at each time. And if I have 10 rows which are London and 10 rows which are Berlin, am I going to actually get the word Berlin and London in the same field on the same row? No, I'm not. What I have to say is not and, I have to say or. So now if I press F5, you'll see that I get one Berlin record, which is the first one, and then underneath it all of the remaining London records. Okay, so it's very important to understand the differences between and or. Or means anything, either or, obviously, and means that it must be the same. So where would we use an and? Well, on a customer table it's going to be a little bit difficult, but let's have a look here. We have the contact title here, sales representative. So to save time, I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to delete the where clause and just put in contact title. Ooh, if I could type it properly, equals sales representative. So if I do that, now I get 17 rows back. But what if I wanted to make sure I only see the ones which are in London? Well, this is where you would use the and clause, because I would say and city equals London. And when I press F5 now, I only get 3 rows back. Now, what would have happened if I did or? Right, this is getting a bit weird. Let me just highlight this section and run it again. And you'll see that I have 17 rows. Okay, now let me just run it completely. I've now no longer got 17 rows, I've got 20 rows. And have a look here, we've got not just London, but we've got Berlin, we've got Torino, we've got Versailles. What's going on? Well, the reason this is happening is because we are stipulating that I am looking for the sales representative or I'm looking for London. So by and large, what we're talking about here is two independent queries going on. Look for anything with London and look for anything with sales representative. If you wanted to see both, you must use the AND statement. So hopefully that'll give you an insight into the ANDs and ORs. And so what we'll do is we'll move on a little bit. So I'm going to get rid of the contact title and just go back to city again. Now, is there any other ways I could have displayed London and Berlin at the same time? Yes, there is. What I could have done is, rather than using the equal symbol, and this is very common if you're a developer, is you use this function which is known as in. So let me just put the structure in. So what you do is you separate via a comma all the values that you want it to look for. So if I run this again, executing it, F5 or on that execute button, you'll see that it does exactly the same job, but it's less typing. So if I then wanted to key in something else, we saw that Torino, didn't we? So I've done Torino, haven't I? So that's not going to do anything. So Torino. And look, there it is. It's now appearing on the list. So with that discussed, we can use the in statement. We're going to now move on onto another type of where clause, which is, what if I wanted to only look for anything beginning with L rather than London? Well, we could say this, and this is where we've probably come across this before, is L star. Now, this isn't going to work. Let me just explain why. First of all, if you're not familiar with the star symbol, that's a wildcard. You can see it being used up here, but why isn't it working down here? Well, there's two reasons. One, the star symbol's completely wrong for SQL, and second of all, we're using the wrong operator. So we can't say city equals L star because there's nothing called L star in the database. What we need to use is change the operator to like. But unfortunately, this is where we have differences between our SQL. If you're using Access or Excel using SQL here, you would find that that would have worked. Whereas if you're using a true database system such as SQL, Oracle, MySQL, this is not acceptable. We need to use the % symbol instead, which can flummox people. And I'll just try and explain and ease your pain a little bit. We need to differentiate between what we can select on a field basis versus what we can select within a field. Okay, so that is selecting multiple fields, that is selecting within a field. Okay, so the % symbol is how we would do a wildcard search. So if I now just execute that, you'll see I now get all sorts of different cities appearing in the list. Now, something a little bit more advanced we could do is, rather than using likes or ins and so on, what if I was looking for postcodes and I'm looking for anything that begins with WX? Well, I could use a like statement, but I'm going to show you something slightly different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to something known as the left function. And what we do is we encapsulate the field that we're after with the left, and I'm just going to put in left, 3. Now what that tells it to do is only bring back the first 3 characters of that city. So what it will do is it will bring back LON, it will bring back LUL, it will bring back LIL. Now I said I wanted to do the postcode, so I'm going to just change city to postcode, or postal code as it says there. And then with that done, I'll just say equals, and we'll just pick this one here, WX1. So WX1 and run it. And there we go. We just bring back that one record. So if I wanted to adjust that just to 2 characters and then run that, there you go, you can see it's starting to work again. So you can use the left function to also split your data out. Now I'll probably focus on an entire video which talks about string manipulation later, but with those basics covered, we can now start building up some more complex queries. So to finish off, what I've done here is I've just briefly created a select statement which covers several things. Let's just say that your manager came to you and said, I need a list of fax numbers for cities of London, Berlin and Madrid, and I need it in alphabetical order of company. So what we've done here is we've got the city statement using the in, which has got those 3 cities. But then if you wanted to say I don't want to see anything which has got nulls in it, we would just say fax is not null. And then finally what I've done is I've put in the order by statement. So when you run it, you get those results. If I just run it without it, you'll notice I have a null there. So that's what the is not null option does. Obviously, if I get rid of the word not and then just run it, I would then get the ones which are null. So that gives you an idea of what we can do with the where clause. Much more to come, so stay tuned.